of Mendocino. It is in Northern California. It is right on the coast, as you see, with these beautiful cliffs. And we were so blessed to get and visit Mendocino with Aaron and Stephanie. And I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things that we experienced while we were there. Mendocino was a lumbering town back in the 1800s, and it's really trying its best to keep itself the way that it is now. Now, Trundy, this morning, I heard her multiple times say it was like paradise. It was the Garden of Eden. While we were there, Earl sent me a text. And on that text, it said, Tampa, Florida, for the first time, officially hit 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, we go over 100 quite often on feels like, but it actually hit triple digits, 100 degrees. You know what the high was for us on that very day in Mendocino? 62 degrees. 62 degrees. At night, it was 55, 54, and then every day, somewhere in the low 60s. And for Trundy, it was the Garden of Eden. I call that God's AC. I looked up why is Mendocino this cool, and it's due to the Pacific bringing down cold air. Those ocean breezes come in. Now, 30 miles inland, it was in the 90s. And what happens is that hot air rises up and it just sucks even more of that cold AC air right into Mendocino. It's wonderful.
Did you have fog every morning?
We had fog. That was another issue. It's up here. Fog, wind, and geography is what makes up this beautiful place. Every morning we had a nice fog that rolled up in. And when we were hiking, these are the types of views you have in Mendocino. We were hiking along this headland coast, and Trundy stops and she says, Aaron, man can't make this. This is only done because of God's wonderful creation, that something like this can happen. And it's so unusual for it to be that temperature, that type of beauty. And there was beauty everywhere. I mean, you're going to hear later about waterfall hikes and different things. It was just a wonderful time. This picture is from my front porch where we were. Whoa. That's the Pacific. And this garden that you see is just full of hummingbirds. I mean, it really is the Garden of Eden. There's just these little hummingbirds. Hummingbirds are so cool. I mean, I kind of fell in love with hummingbirds. I kind of knew what hummingbirds were, but once you experience, they just come down and fly right in front of your feet. Doom, 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 all over. And this is the view when you step out off of the property, and that's, I tell you, it shakes you when you see that. But I want to talk to you about 3 beautiful things that I saw. And that was Mark, Scott, and Bruce. Three men, I'd say from the ages of 40 to 60? Yeah. Mark being the younger out of those three, probably. And here's the thing about Mark, Scott, and Bruce. They have no idea that a group of Christians 2,000 miles away are talking about them this morning. They'd probably be a little flabbergasted. And I have no idea about the religious background on two of these individuals. The only one I can speak to is Bruce, as far as that goes. But they each lived an aspect of Christianity that we need to do. And sometimes when you don't know people really well, you can hold them up and say, hey, look at this individual. It's because you don't know all the sins. You don't know everything that's in the skeleton closet that they may have. I think sometimes that's why we tend to not have very many friends. We are scared, and it's easier to put out this whitewashed sepulcher and say, hey, this is how great I am, and with all the skeleton bones. But once you get to know me, you're going to know my struggles and my sins. Mark worked at the inn, and it was a sweet little place, maybe 10 rooms or so, at the Agate Cove Inn. And they supplied breakfast. And when we went down the first morning for breakfast, Mark was there. And Mark had on an apron, and he was running around, and he was filling everybody's coffee, and he was taking care of everything that needed to be taken care of. And I thought, oh, that's Mark's job. That's Mark's job. But you could tell that he enjoyed his work because he had a good attitude, right? He had a good attitude about his job. Then I hear Mark talking to the gardener later in the week. And they're talking about where a bear had come down and had lain in the garden overnight, sleeping there. And I could tell by the way that Mark was interacting with this fella that he was asking questions with humility. He wasn't bossing the gardener around. He was saying, what do you think this bear was doing? What do you think it's up to? Should we be concerned about this bear? There was a bear. Tore the snot out of the dumpsters in the back later that night. Got to bear-proof those things, right? But I watched that. I watched how Mark interacted. Then, another day into the week, I see him with the boss. You could tell by the way they were interacting with each other that she relied on him to run this place. Mark was a good worker. And it brought to mind Colossians chapter 3. And Paul says, whatever you do, work heartily, as for the Lord and not for men. When we work, people are watching us. I was watching Mark. He had no idea why, or that it would ever be addressed again, but it made an impression on me. Another day, I go down, he's wearing a suit. Now, the man wearing a suit and running the place also puts on an apron and fills the coffee cups. That type of, it's not below me to do this task, is important. And when I see that, I see God's work. You don't take a job like this if you don't have the heart of a servant. People who are in the hospitality industry, for the most part, have the heart of a servant. We need to be kind so often they get the worst side of people. Anyone who's been a waiter or a waitress or any type of hospitality can tell you this. Look, Mark chapter 10, we're told it won't be so amongst you. You don't lord it over others. Whoever would be great among you must be your servant. And whoever would be first among you must be a slave of all. For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. What you said up here was so important, Jason. To be inconvenienced. And to do that willingly, and to do that lovingly. And sometimes we tend to let our wealth get in the way of it. There was you remember the situation with Jesus and he had to pay his taxes?
Mm-hmm.
He says, go out and get a fish. And they catch the fish, and in the fish is the coin that he needed to pay his taxes. See, money wasn't a problem if Jesus needed money. Now I'd like for you to think about that last Passover. The one that Jason was talking about. What did Jesus do that night? He washed their feet. He could have paid for that to have been done. You see, the disciples come in with their dirty feet. They're about to sit at the table and break bread. He could have said, hey, I've paid for someone to come in and wash everybody's feet. And they go, oh, that's very nice of you. Thank you. And their feet get washed and they have a meal. That's not what he did. He inconvenienced himself. He humbled himself. The Son of God put on that cloth and got down on his knees and washed their feet. The morning we flew out, we had an early flight. Okay. And Aaron kindly says, look, just meet at my house, we'll Uber to the airport. I said, no, we're not going to Uber to the airport. He says, why not? I said, because my son-in-law would love to wake up at 4:30 and he would love to drive us all to the airport. He did that. It inconvenienced him. But I wanted to inconvenience him. Sorry. He had worked all week. This was a Saturday morning. It's not like he could just get up at 4:30, take me to the airport, and then log on and go to work. That's what it is. That's what it is to be a servant. Let's talk a little about Scott. One day out of the week, Aaron and Stephanie came and they said, look, you guys, you can break and go your own way. This is a short trip. We have arranged, we're going to look at some residential properties. You're probably not going to be interested. You should have seen Trundy light up. She's like, yes. And they're like, no, it's going to be boring. We're just going to be going. She's like, no, I want to go. You know how we used to date? We'd break into houses that were up for sale. You know how many times I shimmied the back window of a house up, Trundy climbs into the utility room, then she goes around and unlocks the door and lets me in. Hey, we had a great time after 2008. Just, I shouldn't be saying this, but yeah,
Well, we're talking about honesty.
fun felonies.
We have a sheriff here.
I understand, I understand. So we got to meet Scott. Scott's a realtor up that way. He lives just south of Mendocino in a place called Little River. Scott was a computer guy back in the 90s, and then he went into firefighting. He worked as a firefighter and then retired from that, and he dabbles in real estate. And Scott, he had a listing, he had the MLS listings on these homes. And he'd bring us in these listings, we'd look around at the house. Realtors, how do I say this?
Yeah.
What's that?
They're salespeople.
They're salespeople,
They're like
Enough
used
said.
cars.
used
Right.
cars,
Right, used houses, right.
everything has a spin, and some are just liars. Some will just lie. And you need a good realtor. You need someone who will tell you the truth. And so we'd look at these listings, and Trinity and I were just looking all around. Great. These were magnificent homes overlooking the Pacific Ocean. And Aaron would go, this says 4 bedrooms and 3 baths, and I'm only counting 3 bedrooms and 2.5 baths. And Scott would go, yeah, not everybody tells the truth. They're trying to count this little alcove as a bedroom. It ain't a bedroom. And some realtors will say, if there's a hose and a tree in the backyard, that's another bathroom. That's how they are.
Yes.
Now he could have said, and this is how he generously said, yeah, that's, she does that. Never gave her name, never said who it was. But you gotta watch, and you want honesty. Honesty is a big deal. What does Paul say to us in Ephesians? Paul says, look, you guys were liars. He says to the church, you were liars. What's different now? You've put away lying. You let each one of you speak the truth with his neighbor. For we are members one of another. That puts weight on both ends, doesn't it? If I'm going to be brave enough to speak a truth, you're going to have to be able to bear a truth. That's been the case in my life. People have come and said, this is what you're doing, and this is what you're doing wrong. Now I have a choice. I can bow up, or I can take that humbly and make a correction, right? But it's important because we're members one of another. There shouldn't be a great degree of separation between us. If my knee hurts, I need it to tell me the truth and say, hey, we're in pain, we have an issue here. But I don't need my knee to lie to me, right? I need it to tell me the truth. Scott was very truthful with us. And here's how I know he was truthful with us. He'd say, so if you have one of these homes, if it's hundreds of years old, what they do is they put a C for circa, and then they do the year they think it was built. So the house we were looking at, circa 1887. Okay. It's been there. It's in the town proper of Mendocino. Scott says, I'm telling you now, if you want to change the mailbox, you've got 3 councils you have to get through. They are heritage preservation. Help me out. You know what I mean, though, right? Yes, yes. You ain't gonna change the mailbox. You certainly ain't gonna paint the place. Everything is dictated to you. I mean, come on, realtor. That's honest. If I'm showing a house to someone and it has a Nazi of an HOA, it's not really smart of me to go, look, this is a great place, great price, but the HOA is stand by. And he did that. And it impressed me. And I thought to myself, that's beautiful. Because that's what the gospel is. The cliff may be beautiful. The trees are gorgeous. They're redwood trees. But to see honesty, and from what I know, trustworthy. Because you're telling me things, look, you're only going to make money if you close the deal.
Right.
That's how this game works. Oh Lord, who will travel in your tabernacle? Who will live on your holy hill? He who walks blamelessly and does what is right, he who speaks truth in his heart. He does not slander with his tongue, and he does no evil to his neighbor, nor takes up a reproach against his friend. He in whose eyes a vile person is despised, but who honors those who fear the Lord. Now, this next line means everything. Who swears to his own hurt and does not change. You ever made a business deal and then it comes back to bite you? You have to bid for a job. You bid the job, they take it, and then you realize, oh man, I'm losing it on this job. And you don't change. God respects that. I respect it. We all do. Because it hurts me and I still have to keep my word. He took us to a place. We call it the statue house. This lady had ceramics everywhere. And it was so unusual because they were the same ceramic.
Yes.
So she would have a pink elephant, and then the same elephant in blue, and then the same elephant in tan, and then the same elephant in green, and it was just unusual. So, but he takes us to this place. He shows us this beautiful view out on this porch. It's 3 stories up. And he says, this is pretty. But you see that road down there? You're going to hear traffic. Just letting you know. And I thought to myself, there's no traffic right now, Scott.
Right.
You don't have to bring that up.
Right.
There wasn't a car down there. But it's just someone who's trustworthy and honest. So Mendocino is one of the reasons, Kingsley, one of the reasons that Mendocino is cool is because it's a secret. I've never heard of it. I've never been there. There's a reason it's a secret. It's a conspiracy to keep the place away from everybody else. I believe that. That's one of the few conspiracies I'll give them. They show you Kamala and you're like, why would I want to come to California? And then it has all this beauty. Mendocino is not easy to get to. There is no 4-lane highway to get to Mendocino. It's a 2-lane Hadean road
It is.
of just, if you're the least bit motion sickness, you're gonna be sick. Yeah. Yeah. Anyone who's been to the mountains of North Carolina and you've driven it, That's what it is to get to Mendocino, and it's 4 hours of it.
Oh.
4 hours of it. So Mendocino stays Mendocino because of that. We have an early flight the day we're leaving, and Aaron and Stephanie said, look, we're not gonna be 4 hours away. We'll drive 3 hours south. We'll stay the night, and then 1 hour back into San Francisco. Good deal, sounds great. So we stay in a little place called Olima.
Oh.
Just beautiful.
Oh.
Okay, just beautiful. If you told me this story, I would say, you're a liar. Because in the backyard is a garden. This is before dinner. There's 2 does. They come waltzing up from me to you with 2 little fawns. It looks like each mom has 1 baby. And the fawns begin leaping all around, frolicking, just frolicking. It's Disney in real life. And we went and had dinner, and then we came back. There's a fire pit, Adirondack chairs, and the 4 of us are seated there and just trying to express how grateful we are for the week that we had. And out walks this fella, Bruce. Now at the front desk, they had s'mores. The ingredients were s'more. That's nice. And Bruce comes out. Now the fire pit is gas. The modern ones that come up through the rocks. So you got the picture. And Bruce comes down and he says, I'm going to try one of these s'mores over a gas fire. And Aaron said, good luck. But fire makes all the difference when it comes to toasting a marshmallow. And what you really want is the coals. In fact, Bruce said that. I said, yes, my daughter Katie
Yes.
would amen that. You want a good coal to roast or toast a marshmallow. He's got this marshmallow and he's doing the best he can. He really gave up after a while. But Bruce starts talking about his wife. Anne. And you know immediately this fella loves Anne. He's spent his whole life making Anne happy. And it's thrilling to see a happy marriage. How many unhappy marriages do you bear through? And how hard is it to work to keep your marriage happy? It's hard work. I'm sure Bruce and Ann got on each other's nerves at times. We had an early flight. Mariko had to get up at 4:30. We had to get up at 3:30 for our flight out. And I'm ready to go to bed. And we said, well, we're going to retire for the night. And Bruce picks up his phone and he goes, hey, sweetheart, yeah, there's people down here, they want to meet you. I'm not lying. We never said a word about me. But this guy loves his wife so much, he's like, I'm telling you how great my wife is. You got to meet my wife. And Ann came down and sat and talked. Listen, man. Listen, you got a good marriage. Listen to what Solomon says about. Look, Solomon is very matter of fact. He's like, hey, life horrible, life great. You need to join them both and be ready for both. In chapter 9, he says, enjoy life with the wife whom you love. Now, Bruce loved Ann. All the days of your vain life that God, has given you under the sun, because that is your portion in life. And in your toil at which you toil under the sun. I'm talking to you today because it was so beautiful to see that type of a marriage. Would people talk of our marriage that way? It's not easy. I guarantee you it's not easy. We were talking this morning, Blaine and I, about how fathers, that you inherit capital, you inherit money, you inherit things from your father, but God is the one who gives you a good wife. God. You can destroy that, or you can build it. Bruce listened. It was a little unusual how he listened. You would say something, and he wouldn't react at all. I'm telling the truth, yeah? Okay. You saw this the way I saw it. You'd say something, doesn't react. But he's listening, and he's thinking. And then it comes back later in the conversation. Listening ain't easy.
James 1:19.
Yes. Well, that's up next. Thanks a lot. He said James 1:19. That's the very next slide. Yeah. Listening ain't easy. One, sometimes people don't have much to say. But really, it's a matter of you paying attention. Paying attention is hard work. You got to focus. I knew when I gave an answer, he was focused on what I was saying. And that changes the entire conversation when somebody is truly listening to you. It changes everything, and you feel yourself opening up, don't you? We need to be that way. It's easy to talk, not so easy to listen. And sometimes you know people aren't even hearing at all what you're saying. You can see. They're thinking about, what am I going to say next? What am I going to say next? Yeah. Bruce says, what did you do for a living? So I tell him, and he's like, what are you doing now? And I said, well, I'm with this little church. Boy, he lit up. Oh, you are? Yeah. Now, this is his next question, which was a fabulous question. Barbara Walters type of question. He says, what's your favorite sermon you ever preached? No one's ever asked me that.
Not
Rocky.
Black Swan.
What's that?
Not Black Swan.
That was a good sermon. It really meant something. And he listened to my answer. He even listened to Trinity's answer, which wasn't the same as my answer. Okay, guys. James chapter 1, verse 19. Know this, my beloved brothers. Let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger. Be quick to hear. If I ask you, I really do care, and I want to know. Vice versa. Let all of this, Mark, Scott, Bruce, they didn't do any fabulous thing. They didn't save a puppy's life while I was there. They didn't do some great act. What did they do? They just lived their lives. But they lived out some principle of Christianity where I say, that is how it's supposed to be done. That is a good example. That is what I need to imitate. That is what Ephesians chapter 5 says. Imitators of God as beloved children. We walk in love as Christ loved us, gave himself up for us as a fragrant offering and sacrifice to God. People are watching you. People are watching. They're listening. They're observing. And if they see Christ, they'll know it. They'll know it. And that's how you get your name talked about thousands of miles away without ever even knowing it. And it was beautiful. It was a beautiful time. Any comments?
What was your favorite sermon?
There's this, yeah, good. Did you kill that?
Oh.
Oh, kill that.